Hello everybody, welcome back to my YouTube channel. I'm Thomas from Tom CRM Talk, and today I want to deep dive into standard and custom object topic in Salesforce CRM. If you already watched a previous video about Salesforce objects where I just talked a little bit about what kind of objects exist in Salesforce, great, thank you very much. Now we continue the journey and deep dive into standard and custom objects. All right, so let's start with some PowerPoint slides. Just a little recap. What is a Salesforce object? It is a database table which contains key components such as fields, records, relationships, page layouts, record types, APIs. It pretty much just contains everything which you need to store, enter, edit, whatsoever your data into Salesforce CRM and use it hopefully successfully for your business. I believe there are really there are a couple of object types or objects in Salesforce, but I believe the most common ones and important ones are standard objects and custom objects. So Salesforce Salesforce depends on the cloud you're using, comes with a couple of standard objects, usually accounts, contacts, leads, opportunities, campaigns, the big five. And of course, if you're using, for example, the financial cloud or the nonprofit cloud, there are a couple of more or different objects standard available. And if all the standard objects, and it's really a lot already, which Salesforce does offer for your cloud, does not fit your business needs, you can create custom objects. And you identify them easily by the name of the object, and then they just end with __C. Standard and custom objects have a lot of in common. For example, both can store up to 500 custom fields, okay, and 40 lookup relationships. 2 of them can be master detail relationships, but the total number is 40, okay. A standard object is provided and maintained by Salesforce, and it comes with a lot of standard fields already included. For example, for account, that's name, account number, account score, active. For contacts, that can be first name, last name, job title. It's important just for you to know you cannot delete a standard object. You cannot delete the standard fields. They just give you with that package. And it gets provided and maintained by Salesforce. And they currently have more than, that's a number from August 2024, more than 1,467 standard objects in Salesforce. And as said, it depends on the cloud you're using, okay? A custom object, on the other hand, is something you create by yourself, an admin, developer, consultant, architect, every person who has access and the permission to enter setup and the object manager and hit the button to create a new object. And it can create relationships with other standard or other custom objects, and it supports all major Salesforce features like reports, workflows, API access. We will see it in a couple of minutes. Important to know also, custom objects come at least with a few out-of-the-box standard fields, such as, for example, name or last modified by, created by, some system fields, which are just very, very important. All right, so let's dive into Salesforce CRM and see how all this is working. So when you're logged into Salesforce CRM, this is how it looks like probably, and you want to go to your objects and maybe create a new object or whatsoever. You go here to Setup, and on Setup you hit Object Manager tab. And here you have listed all your objects, and you can see here all the standard objects. You can see it here by the type. There's already a lot of. And you have here also already a custom object, application __C, the application object. I created it a couple of days ago. So let's say you want to track or enter hotels, because you're a company who has something to do with touristic things, and you need to store hotel data. So there might be no standard object available which does fit your need to store hotel data, but you can create a new custom object then. And I will show you now 3 ways on how you can create a custom object in Salesforce, and all the details and considerations you need to keep in mind when you're doing that, okay? So I believe the most common way is to go here on the object manager to the drop-down create and hit custom object. And this is then how it looks like. The first thing you want to enter is hotel, the label, okay? And you can see it already pre-fills a couple of information. We will go through them now one by one, so no worries, okay? The next thing it's asking you is a plural name for that, and let's call it hotels then. And this is really for the users. This is for user experience pretty much, okay? So the tab will be called hotel, the plural label will be hotels. So for example, if you put that object, or if that object would be part of a related list on another object, people would see hotels, okay? This is the really user experience here. Then we have this checkbox here, starts with a vowel sound. So, I believe most of the people working with Salesforce don't know what this here is doing. And I promise you will not find it in any certification, but I will tell you. A vowel sound is everything like A, E, I, O, U in the native English. If you're a native English speaker, or if you're speaking English, okay? And for example, if you have airplanes, it starts with an A, so it starts with a vowel sound. So why is this here now important then? And that has something to do with user experience, usability. If, let's say we have here hotel. I mean, we created, right? And Salesforce does generate a message, like, I don't know, a success message, a failure message, whatsoever, what kind of message Salesforce does create sometimes or generate in the background. It does consider if the object name does start with a vowel sound or not, because it makes a huge difference for a native English speaker if you say a hotel has been opened last night, or if you say an hotel has been opened last night, right? So there's a huge difference. It's a grammar thing and it's a user experience thing, but it's an important thing because it just sounds stupid if you say an hotel and not a hotel. So hotel does not start with a vowel sound, so I'll keep it unchecked. If I would have in here airplanes, I would check it because there is an airplane and I don't say there is a airplane. So it's just incorrect, okay? So that's what does vowel, or this checkbox here does. So whenever Salesforce does generate some messages, it does consider it starts with a vowel sound or not, and then it says, in this specific case here, as it is unchecked, a hotel, if I would check it, it would say an hotel, which does not make sense. Then we have the object name, which is for the developers. Because you can also see it here. The object name is used when referencing the object via the API. So when something is doing with the API, or if developer is writing some Apex code, they reference the object name. That can differ from here. I would call this here for the users, I don't know, buildings. And the developer would still see hotel. It does not make sense to differ it, I believe, most of the times, but maybe in some specific, very specific case it does, so it can differ, but usually it's the same. And the object name would be then that thing you can see then in the object manager overview when you list all the objects, like with __c, okay? When we have description here, and I just can recommend whenever you have the possibility in Salesforce, when you create a new object, field, validation rules, whatsoever, and you have a possibility to enter a description, take this 2-3 minutes and enter a brief description. Why? If you keep that empty or just enter a ticket number or whatsoever, and in 2 or 3 years someone is analyzing your system or want to double check, okay, why is this object created, or what is this field doing, or who requested that field, and you don't have a brief description in here, it will be a pain in the ass for that person to figure out what happened 2 or 3 years ago. So I just can recommend. It makes everybody's life so much easier, and it just costs you 1, 2, 3 minutes of your lifetime. But it's important, okay? Then we have a context-sensitive help setting, which just says, yeah, if you can enter here then for when you create some fields, a help text, or you can link to help pages, these kind of things, or you can also say, yeah, when context-sensitive help settings, just open a window using a visual force page for help for your users, or you use this one here, the standard Salesforce.com help and training window, which is perfectly fine, I think. Okay. Then we have this thing here, enter a record name, label, and format. So what is a record name? When you create a custom object, one of the out-of-the-box fields, which always does get generated as part of the object, is the record name. And here you can say, yeah, it should be a name like hotel name, which sounds good to me. I should not change it, but I can also say here it's called hotel title for any reason. But I think hotel name makes sense. And if it does not make sense for you from a text perspective, you can also switch to auto number, which can be very interesting. For example, if you want to create a custom object to save invoices or invoice data, because an invoice number is probably more meaningful than an invoice name. So then you can say, okay, whenever someone is creating a new record, use an auto number. You can enter here a format. You can enter with what kind of number that auto number should start. And yeah, it's just super helpful here. Okay. But in that specific case, as we want to create an object to store hotel information, we keep it as text. Okay. Then we have optional features, allow reports. So if I check this, people or users who have access and the permission to create reports, they can create a report on that hotel object and data. That can be super helpful and super cool if your users working with that object and will want to get some analysis of that object and data in there, which is great. But maybe sometimes you create just an object for technical reasons and it's just there in the background to do some things. So maybe you don't want then people to create reports on that object and see that object as a possibility in their reports. So you don't want to check it then. Allow activities. Yeah, if the object and the record is created by a user on that, if a user should be able to reference that with a task or an event, check it. Track field history. So if you have an object and you want to track some specific changes on, or some changes on some specific fields, you can enable it. You have then the possibility to mark 20 fields, that's the limitation, 20 fields per object, to track the any changes on that field. So let's say we have the record name, we have a field hotel name, and we want to track if someone changing the hotel name for any reason. We enable that field on the object to track the field history. And then, for example, if I would then jump in and change some names of some hotels, it would show somewhere in a, for example, related list, Thomas changed the hotel name from Steigenberger into Hilton on and the specific date. It's very helpful, it's very useful in some specific cases, but keep in mind, limitation 20 fields per object. Then we have here allow in chatter groups. Yeah, then there's chatter enabled on that object and people can use it in chatter. Straightforward. We have then here another checkbox, which is usually grayed out, and that's called enable licensing. And that's just important for developers and managed package from the App Exchange marketplace. Okay. If you're a developer and you're creating an application in Salesforce and it does contain objects, and that application should be a managed package, and you want to ensure that only people with specific license can then, after installing that package, use that object and that managed package, then you want to enable licensing. So that's just for that need. So if you're not a developer and you're not into creating Salesforce applications and managed packages, you can ignore this here, but that's what it does. Then we have the object classification section, and the first one is allow sharing. So if this is checked, you can create sharing rules on that object and set up sharings for the records and for the users. And the other one is allow bulk API access or allow streaming API access. So yeah, I think this is self-explaining and straightforward. Okay. The next thing is the deployment status, and by default it's deployed. So, but I can also say, yeah, no, it's in development. So if I now save that object, no one will see it, no one will be able to work with it, no one will be able to create a record on it. And until I say, yeah, it's deployed, it's ready to go, and I hit save. And in the meantime, I can create, I don't know, fields, record types, validation rules, whatever you do on an object. Also, we will deep dive in all these topics in some videos in the future. Allow search if you want that the records get created on that object are available on the global search for the users. Check it. In this specific case, for me, it makes sense. Last but not least, you can add notes and attachments related list to the default page layout if you want to. Might make sense for a couple of objects, maybe not for every object in record, so then just ignore. And the last checkbox is launch new custom tab wizard after saving this custom object, and we will see what will happen if we check this. So let's go, let's check. And that brings me to this page here. So what can I do here is I have my object, and then I have here the tab style. The tab style is something, again, a user experience thing. A very little detail, but it can enhance user experience, because when people, I can say, yeah, I'm creating here an hotel object, and I want to have it in that color with that specific icon. So whenever a user is now, after I created that object, is going to the tab, he will see it in the upper left corner, little icon with that color, and it's just a little touch, a nice little touch, but it can enhance user experience, and yeah, that users like and working with Salesforce. If none of these here is actually fitting your needs, you can click here on create your own style. Then you can pick here any color from this color palette and insert a custom image you want to use, and then go from there. Okay, so let's keep it like this. Also again here, you can enter a short description, you can hit next. Here you can set the tab visibility, and on the next page you can also add it to custom apps if you want to or not, and then hit save, and the object is created. There you go, here it is. We created our first object, a hotel object. Let's see where it is. We go in here. Here it is, hotels. And you can see it here. It has this icon with this color. If I would now click new, you can see here, hotel name. That's the field we defined when we created that object. Let's call it Hilton. And we hit save. And there it is. Here we can create our activities on it. And yeah, everything here, we have a notes and attachments section. Everything is as we set and defined while we're creating a custom object. All right, so that was one way on how to create a custom object. Oh, by the way, if you create an object and you're not happy with the tab for any reason, the color, and users are not happy with the color whatsoever, and you want to change it, you can go to home, to setup, home, quick find, type in tab, go to tabs, and then you can go in here and say, yeah, hotels, oh no, the red is not what they expected. Why want to have, I don't know, for any reason, something green with a leaf. It's safe, and then it's now changed to green. Okay, that's how you can do it if you want to. All right. So what else? What other ways do we have when we create an object? When we want to create an object. So we have the schema builder, and if you did not watch it, I created a video about also schema builder in Salesforce. And here it is. So you click on it, and then you go to the Elements tab, and then I can just drag and drop the object into the canvas, and then I can enter all the information I had before also in here. Not all, it's a little bit less. So keep that also in mind when you're creating new objects. Like, you don't, depending on the way you want to create the object, you have more or less options which you can predefine during the creation process. Okay, for example here, yes label, plural label, starts with consonant or with a vowel sound. I can enter the object name, a description, which I can recommend, it's very important. Again, here you can set the context sensitive help setting, the record name, the data type, if it should be text or auto number. You can check if report should be allowed, activity should be allowed, track the field history, available for customer portal. And that's something which was not available on the most common or the other option I showed you before. So if you're using Salesforce Experience Cloud and you want that external users also then have access, for example, to that object, you can make it available here. And again, you can choose between in development and deployed, and add Google Docs notes attachments related list to the default page layout if you want. This is how you do it by Schema Builder. All right. Okay, so that was the second way on how you can create a Salesforce object or a custom object in Salesforce. Now we come to the third way I want to show you, I want to demo you. There are probably a few more, but I believe these are the main three ways on how people create objects in Salesforce, or you should create an object in Salesforce. And the last one is when you go to Setup, to Object Manager, and you hit here the Create drop-down. You don't just have Custom Object, but you can also pick Custom Object from Spreadsheet. And let's do this. So we do it. I need to log into my Salesforce organization I'm using. Let me do this real quick. And then this is what happens here. This page comes up. I can select a Google Sheet. I can select something from Office 365 or Drive, or I can upload my XLSX file or CSV file. And yeah, I prepared here something. So let's do it. We want to create an apartment object. So we have here the CSV file. We open it. And there you go. This is how it looks like then. So when is this option useful? So imagine you're setting up a brand new Salesforce organization and you're working on a migration project from one CRM to Salesforce CRM. And so far so good. Everybody's working on it. You're making good progress, all great. And you identified a couple of objects the customer is using in his current CRM, which you also need then in Salesforce CRM. So you have the option to create one object after another as I showed you before, and then create every field the customer also needs manually and set up a field. And it can take a long time to do this. For example, imagine a customer wants to have a specific object with, I don't know, 120 fields. Have fun with creating 120 fields manually. But luckily, this option does exist in Salesforce. And I can define in the spreadsheet already the object name and the fields I want to have, because by the columns in the spreadsheet I said. For example, I said I want to create an apartment object, and that apartment object should have the apartment name, address, state, city, zip, bedroom, bathroom, and price. And Salesforce does automatically say, yeah, okay, the column in the spreadsheet says apartment name, so call it apartment name, the field. Okay, great. The address column, let's call it address. Great. The state, call it state, and so on and so on. Bedroom, you know what? Let's call it bedrooms, plural. Price, everything fine. So what else? The next thing is automatically Salesforce detect the correct Salesforce field type. So I could say here, for example, yeah, the apartment name should be text. You can also then change it. This is just a suggestion or some default setting by Salesforce. I can also go ahead, yeah, it should not be text. I need a text area or text area long. Or for any reason, it should be integer or decimal or person, currency, pick list multi-select. Date, time, checkbox, phone, email, URL, or geolocation. Okay, so you can create all these types like that. Okay. You can then say, yeah, add it to the layouts already, or don't let it to the layouts, which is also pretty cool. And not just that, as my spreadsheet also contains data already, I not just create the object and the fields, I also already upload the data in my spreadsheet. You can do it, or you just create it by the spreadsheet without data. That's also possible, okay? Because you have here an option I will show you in a second. And here I can also then have some field preview, okay? Here I can see, for example, what it does. And for example, for zip, it says, yeah, use text. Because it should be text. I can also go ahead and say, no, in my country I'm living, zip is always just numbers. So I can change it to integer if I want to. But yeah, it's completely up to you. As my spreadsheet I just uploaded in here also contains data, I have here the options, field mappings, or I can go to data preview and see, okay, the data I have in my spreadsheet, this is how it would be imported into the fields. Okay, pretty cool. 5 records. Why not? Of course, I don't have to tell you, but I tell you, if you upload data via that way when you're creating the object and everything, ensure that the data is accurate and cleaned up before, no duplicates and stuff like that. Okay. All right. So what else can you do? You have, of course, here the excoding format. You can say, yeah, the values should be separated by comma or whatsoever, depending on how you did it in your Excel spreadsheet. You can say, yeah, field label source, detect from row or enter manually. If I switch to enter manually, it just says field Salesforce field name, field 1, and I can just rename it like, yeah, it's apartment name, so call it, I don't know, apartment name or whatsoever. Okay. But I think most of the time detect from row is actually pretty cool. Then you can also say, yeah, the field label row, like, are the field labels in the first row or maybe in the second or third row, because the first and second row just contain some, I don't know, information to just make your spreadsheet looking prettier. And then you can say, okay, no, my field label row information is in my second row. So you do it, and then you can see here what it does. Yes, of course, it does not make much sense right now. Okay. What else? Yes, it tells me already here it will import 5 rows, but I can also say, no, just create the object and the fields, but skip the import of the data. Don't import the data, just create the fields and the object, and I'm happy. Okay, but let's import data right now as well. Okay. Last but not least, you have a record name field. And then here you can say, yeah, let Salesforce create a default record name, or you just say, no, the record name should be apartment name. Yes, go for that. I can also say, yeah, the record name should be the zip information. Let's keep it as apartment name. And then you just hit next. Then you have the options to change the label. Let's call it apartment, plural label apartments, API name apartment. Let's call it an object description, and we have advanced setting. I can enable this for chatter. I can allow it in search, allow reports, allow activities, add nodes related list to a default page layout, add files related list to a default page layout with separated here on this option. And if I'm happy with everything, I just hit finish, and now Salesforce is doing the job. It creates the object, it creates the tab, it's updating the profile, it creates the fields, it imports, updating the layout, it imports all the data, everything just get done now. As you can see here, it should, in that case, just contain a couple of seconds. Of course, if you have in your spreadsheet, I don't know, 100, 120 fields, of course it takes longer. And if you start to import, then also a bunch of number of records, of course it does take a little bit longer. I get a nice winning screen. Nice work, yes, thank you, I know. The object created is called apartment, fields detected 8, it created 8 fields, rows detected 5, it imported 5 rows. Perfect. I'm happy, and I can start to import another object if I want to. Okay, I don't want to, I close this, and let's see if it's created. And there it is, apartment C. Let's go in there. Let's go to field relationships. I can see here all the fields I wanted are created. Price, state, zip, bedroom, bathrooms, apartment name, and so on and so on and so on. Everything in here. Let's see if we find the object. There it is, apartments. And yeah, maybe sometimes it takes a few minutes until it finds it. So let's wait a few minutes or seconds. But usually it should be working. In a second or so. There you go. Here it is. And if I go now to show me all records, I can see here I have all my records listed. This is how you can do it quickly by creating an object via a spreadsheet. I love it. I really love it. So what else do you need to know? And now we come to a very, very important thing you need to consider when you're creating an object in Salesforce. When you create an object in Salesforce, apologize, and you create it via schema builder, or you create it via custom object or custom object from spreadsheet. Keep in mind that when the object is created, you as a Salesforce admin will be able to see that object, work with that object, see the records in there and everything. Every other user does not. That's really important to consider. And let's go to our PowerPoint to give it a little bit more context. If you created object permissions for the system administrator is full access. All other profiles, no access. Field level security by default, full access for the system administrator, all other profiles, no access. Tab visibility, system administrator default on, other profiles default off. And the org-wide default sharing settings are public, read, write, internal, and private, external. You have to keep that in mind. So if you create a new object and you deploy it and you're happy and your chat or your stakeholders or users like, hey, a new object is created, you can start working with it, and you don't consider this here and fix this or set it up before you finish your work and your success communication, people will tell you like, oh, I can't find that object, it's not available. So just to keep, you have to keep that in mind, okay? So how do you fix that? So one thing you want to do is, for example, you can go to sharing, type in, so you go to setup, home, type into the quick find box sharing, then you can go to sharing settings. And here, for example, you can also, you can already set the organization wide default settings. Very important thing. I will talk about that also in upcoming videos, but for now, if you want to change for your settings for the apartment object, which we created here, or for the hotel object, as I said, it's public read write. If you want to have that for any reason private or public read only or whatsoever, you can change it in here. Also, if grant access using hierarchies, you can change it here on the sharing settings, or how people call it in Salesforce, organization-wide defaults, OWD. All the rest is, now you have two possibilities. You can go to profile, profiles, and then go into every profile who should have access, for example, to the apartments object, and define it from there. So let's say, for example, the custom sales profile here, I want that they have access to apartments. I can go in here and then look for apartments, and the tab is hidden. No, they should be able to see it. And then I can go ahead and say, check here, yes, and they should be able to read apartments, they should be able to create an apartment, they should be able to edit an apartment, but they should not be able to delete an apartment whatsoever. And I can hit save, and then all the users with that custom sales profile assigned to will be able to see the apartments object and working with the records in there. Okay, that's one way how you can do it. The other way how you can do it, and you can do that profile by profile, and there is no right or wrong, right, between this way I showed you right now or the other way I will show you right now. You can create permission sets. It really depends on the usage of the object or the need of the object, what the customer or the users want to do it, how the business is working. It really depends. I mean, if there's, for example, just one profile who just needs access to one specific object and all other profiles don't, I personally probably would do it on profile level. If you want to spread the permission to several profiles and maybe even to just specific users, then I would do it by permission sets. Okay. And here you just create a new permission set. Let's call it custom object access. Okay, and save. Or maybe I created it already. Let's call it custom object. So. Okay, there you go. And here now I can go to object settings. I can go to apartments. Here it is. And now I can hit edit here and say, yeah, the tab settings, it should be available, visible, and people with that permission should be able to read, create, edit, not delete. And then I can even define here the field level permission. Like I can say, yeah, they should have read access to all fields at least, but edit, I don't know, bathrooms and bedrooms, maybe, for example. And just hit save. And this is how you, and now I can go ahead and assign that permission set to users or profiles or whatsoever. All right, I believe that's it for the demo time. Now let's switch back one more time to my lovely PowerPoint presentation. And here just some best practices when working with objects in Salesforce. And that's not just for standard and custom objects, but I can't say it often enough. Design your data model with schema in Salesforce carefully and avoid over-customization. If there are standard objects available by Salesforce, delivered by Salesforce, and Salesforce does not do that just for nothing. So if there is a standard object available and they fit your need, use it. Don't over-customize your Salesforce just because you can customize it. Always double-check given possibilities and use standard objects before creating custom objects, and design your data model really carefully. Of course, use indexes and query optimization for objects with a lot of records. So if you already know, okay, there will be a lot of apartments or hotels, keep that in mind. Regularly audit field usage to prevent clutter and technical debts. Yes, of course. And ensure or keep in mind that large data volume will impact reports, list views, SOQL queries, bulk processing, batch apex, these kind of things. So always use selective filters, skinny tables, custom indexes, and also think about an archival strategy to ensure that your system keeps clean and neat, and yeah, everybody will have a good user experience with it. Okay. I will share, last but not least, this link here in my video description, and that link does get you to a Salesforce developer page. This is how it looks like then, and it does list all standard objects available, and you can double check, okay, what standard objects are already there and what is the need of that object, or why is this object in Salesforce available. And yeah, you can go through it, and before you're creating custom objects, double check if something might be already in here or in your Salesforce organization, of course, because it depends also on your Salesforce organization, right? All right, and I think that would be it. We come to an end. And I hope this video helped you, and I hope you get a little bit better understanding about custom objects, standard objects, about the different possibilities on how you can create a custom object, all the considerations you should keep in mind, all the details, all the things you can double check or check, uncheck, like the vowel sound thing. I really believe most people don't know about it. And yeah. If you like that video, give it a thumbs up somewhere here. If you like my channel, subscribe to that channel. There will be more videos coming about all the other different object types and objects in Salesforce, about, oh, I don't know, there's so many videos planned. Sharing settings, user settings, object settings. We will talk about flows, validation rules, Agentforce, yes, of course, also in the future. So there's a lot of more coming on this channel. And keep in mind, this channel is demonetized. It's completely free. It's really my pleasure to share my knowledge with you, and I hope it's helpful, and I hope it will help you and your journey with Salesforce. And yeah, if you like it, I hope you see us next time. Thank you so much for your time, and goodbye.